All right. Very good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Masterclass, The Power of Data and Business. If you can hear me clearly and you're able to see what's on my screen, please give me a shout out on the chat. Just want to make sure that all of you are able to hear me. Also, please write down on the chat which country you're joining us from today. It'll be great to know where you're coming in from. Right, we have a lot of people from the Philippines. That's good to see. The UK, all right. Okay, thank you very much. Before we begin, I'm going to launch a small poll that you'll be able to see on your screens. Please do try to fill that in. That's for us to know a little bit more about you and what industry you belong to. We have quite a split audience here. A lot of people belonging to IT, healthcare. We have some who are from other industry domains, a few from the education, banking, and finance. Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for replying on the poll. And I also see that a lot of people use data in your day-to-day work, which is a very good thing to see and hear as well, because you all know how powerful data is today for any business, right? Thank you so much for your responses. Now, my name is Aditya. I am the co-founder and chief technology officer of Exologist Academy. And we are an organization that specializes in training and education. And data and AI is something that I personally have been passionate about from a very long time. And over the past decade or so, I have been working very closely with data as well in various capacities. And why I'm here today is to share my experiences with you on what data can do for your business or what data can be used for at large. And we'll also go through a live demo of using one of the tools to understand how we can very quickly take some data and arrive at some business decisions. And that's going to be sort of how the flow of the masterclass today is going to go. Now, we have all heard about this term, right? Industry 4.0. Now, you would be wondering why this is, in today's, masterclass. What does it have to do with data and business? But you will soon, get the answer to that. The reason why I'm talking to you about this is primarily to tell you that over the past century, we have seen numerous revolutions happen, right? We have seen industrial revolutions related to mechanical power, related to electrical power. And now we are at a stage where we are seeing the power of data come to life, right? So Industry 4.0 is a breakthrough or a revolution that connects data to multiple components. It is an amalgamation of automation, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, cloud computing, and obviously none of this would be there or would exist if data didn't exist in the first place, right? So that's the day and age we are in, and this is one of the reasons why businesses are increasingly using data to take decisions. So coming back to the question that I had asked earlier, how does all of this relate to data and business? Why is Industry 4.0 so important to understand? Over the past years, what is the one thing that has grown exponentially? I'm pretty sure I'll have a unanimous answer to all of this. It is the amount of data that is being generated, right? I'm pretty sure everybody would agree with me. Does anybody have an idea of the amount of data that is being generated today? I'd love to hear from all of you. And I've also created a small poll for those who are on the Zoom chat. For everybody on the live stream, you could key in your answers on the live stream chat and I'll be able to see them. But I just want to get a rough gauge and an understanding that since you are using data on a day-to-day business, on a day-to-day basis, what is the number? All right, a lot of people, on the Zoom chat saying it's 100 terabyte of data. A few people say 1,000,000 terabyte, and a lot of them say, much, much more than 1,000,000 terabyte of data. Data today is creating such an impact that it's literally like a meteor coming and hitting us, and we're not able to withstand the impact. That's the amount of data. If I put it into numbers, 328.77 million terabytes of data. That's the amount that we are generating on a daily basis. And can anybody tell me which is, what form of data constitutes the majority share, within this? Does anybody have an idea? Anybody on Zoom or the live stream? What form of data does, take up the majority share? You can put in your answers on the live stream chat or the Zoom chat for those who are on Zoom. Social media? Okay. Can I have any more answers? Statistical data, okay. Photos and videos. So videos, you're absolutely correct, James. So videos is, the biggest contributor to data today. And of course, it's sort of data that could be categorized as unstructured, but it is something that we are all watching on a day-to-day business, something that is being created on a day-to-day basis. 53.5% of the total data generated is by video. It's not very surprising, right? So we have all heard of this term, data is the new oil. Some people even say data is the new soil. It's kind of the foundation for things that grow on it. So there have been all these, various, one-liners that have been put forward, and all of them are true to quite a fair bit of extent, because in everyday applications that we use, we are seeing that there is an increasing amount of data, right? Google Maps is coming up with various features that uses a lot of data. You have stock predictions that uses a lot of data. You have weather reports that use a lot of data. So each and every application in and around you today is a consumer and generator of data. Now, what is data, you may ask? Well, for a business, data can be anything depending on what the business is, right? It could be structured, it could be unstructured, it could be numbers, observations, it could be video data, it could be audio data, it could be customer reviews. Now, this is the expanse of the different types of information that different industries gather. But at the end of the day, all of this is classified under this umbrella, and all of this has to be made use of for the business as well. So to put it in a single slide or a single diagram here, there are numerous data types, such as time series, natural language, network, structure, unstructured, and so on. Now, all of this for different businesses constitute important forms. The question one asks quite often, though, is, what are we supposed to do with it, right? We have a lot of data. We have millions of terabytes of data. Every organization is probably capturing a small percentage of that, but it's still a lot for an individual entity. So what we can do with the data is a decision that has to be taken such that it benefits the business at large. And this is a decision that would drive the future of the organization as well. You could think about exploring the data, right? So that's what people used to do when data first started being collected as well. You would explore the data, understand what it's about, what it can tell you, and moreover, derive some useful insights from it. The management team always wanted to see a bird's eye view as well. And in order to satisfy them, we could build reports and dashboards that could enable a bird's eye view for the management folks. On the other hand, more and more demand is seeping in to derive new inferences, to understand what's going to happen in the future. And all of these are things that you can do with the data. All you need to know is how to do it, what is the tool and technology I have to use, what is the decision that I have to make at the end of the day, who do I communicate it to? And when you put all of these things together, that's when the power of using tools around data starts coming into the picture. For any particular business, there are a few benefits of using these techniques. I mean, we use a one-liner called data-driven decision making, and you'll hear this quite often. A lot of people and organizations talk about it. But how does it benefit a business, right? We can go through this one at a time. So first thing is greater transparency and accountability, right? When you have data, you have evidence of things happening. You have evidence and you have proof that, okay, some event has taken place in the past, some event is happening at the moment. So you get greater transparency and you can be accountable for what is happening. Second thing is continuous improvement. Prior to when we started collecting data, it was, we could only look at what's happening and try to improve. Now you have an accountability of what's happening. So you can use the data to improve continuously on a day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year basis, and have a much faster cycle in doing that. Business decisions are always tied to analytics insights, right? So any decision the business is making today is backed by data, backed by analysis of data, and that's what data can give you. Fourth, you have reduced costs and improved revenue. You would have heard this a lot of times, but the caveat behind this is to know how to use it effectively, right? It could end up being more cost and less effective if you don't know how to use it, right? So you got to know how to use it and make the most of it. And lastly, a better understanding of the market trends. Earlier on, you used to do a lot of research. You need to do a lot of market understanding to figure out what's happening. Today, because of the surge of data, because of the insight into the data we have, it's easier and faster to understand market trends. So these are things that businesses can benefit from when it comes to using data. And what is the term that bridges all of these things together, or kind of brings all of this together? It's analytics. And you would have heard of this term, you would have seen it, used it, but to understand it very clearly, it is important to know that analytics is just a tool, right? It's a tool that bridges data and decision making, to put it in very simple words, right? Hence, the name of the topic. So analytics is one of those powerful tools that can help you understand your data better and make better business decisions, right? And anywhere you see, around you today, you will always hear from business and organizations that, hey, I'm taking a decision because, my data told me so. I'm taking a decision because I saw that in the past 3 months, something happened. And that's where, we are going to in the future as well. Now, how are people using this tool? How are businesses using this tool? Now, when businesses embark on the journey of data-driven decision-making, or in one word, analytics, they have to maintain a cost to complexity ratio or a cost to value ratio, right? The simplest form is descriptive analytics, where the cost is lower, the complexity is lower, but the value is also low. But if it suffices, if it's sufficient for your business, you can stay with that. It is a part of analytics that helps you understand what's happening, what's going on, how can I improve. Now, diagnostic goes a step further. You have to dig deeper into your data to diagnose issues, to figure out what's happening. That increases the complexity of the tool, the technology, the resources, but the value also scales up uh, in a linear manner. Going one step further, we are stepping into what people want today, right? People want to understand what is going to happen tomorrow, right? People are not okay with what's going to happen today. They want to know what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's where predictive analytics comes into the picture. Yes, it is a lot more complex to build. You need a lot more data, but it adds numerous value because you're able to take you're able to take better decisions at the end of the day. Prescriptive analytics, the most complex out of the lot, but also giving you the most value, because this is where you start optimizing the decisions that are going to impact how data is going to affect the future. So depending on what a business wants, how much it can expend in terms of resource, in terms of money, in terms of the value it wants, you could be at any level of this ladder, right? Where organizations are striving to be at today is obviously the top half of this. Now, I'll give you a very, simple example just to, kind of bring everybody on a common ground, right? Netflix is, an application that a lot of people use today, right? Uh, Let me hear some yeses or see some yeses on the chats if any one of you watches Netflix. Obviously, I know there would be a few people, so please go ahead and let me know to enable me to convince myself that yes, there are indeed people here. But Netflix is something that evolved over a period of time, right? And how did Netflix evolve? If any of you were early users of Netflix, you would have seen a very different user interface than what it has today. You didn't have buttons that would allow you to skip things. You wouldn't have buttons that allowed you to move to a next episode, for example. All these things were missing. But Netflix was using us as a base to do analytics. They wanted to figure out what are customers behaving like and take a decision based on that. So they gathered data, they did analytics, and they figured out that there are various things customers are not doing, and they introduced certain things which could benefit the customer, things that are easy to use, things that will make a customer more happy. So this is an example of the power of using data in a business like this. So similarly, you can also think about situations where it could benefit you in your business. If your business is in sales, it would benefit you in one way. If it's in IT, it would benefit you in another. It doesn't matter, what industry you belong to or what industry analytics is employed in. It is, analytics is like a magic tool, right? Obviously, you need people and resources to know how to use it, but it's like a very big enabler of things that can change in a business. Let me give you a few examples from different industries. Now, earlier on, I saw that a few people were from the manufacturing space. Now, in the manufacturing space, analytics has been very pivotal in reducing a lot of downtime, increasing production efficiency, making sure maintenance is done on time, unnecessary breakdowns are reduced. How do they do that? Right? 40, 50 years back, you had to have people come in, inspect, oil your machines, if they find something faulty, or once it breaks down, somebody would come and repair it. But today, manufacturing firms have employed sensors that they could get the data from in real time. And then through analytics, through other technologies in conjunction, they figure out that, okay, these are things that we can uncover from the data that is being gathered, and hence, improvements. If we talk about other areas like healthcare, for example, right? Healthcare, again, has been a very big area where there have been stripes. Obviously, it's a more critical domain, but people have still progressed. For example, MRI scans, right? So MIT in 2018, which is about 5 years ago, developed an algorithm that could scan an MRI and give you information 1,000 times faster than a human doctor. And obviously, that is a feat that is remarkable, right? And why could that happen? Because of predictive analytics, because algorithms were trained and were used to look at the scans and figure out what's the issue there. This could be applied to X-rays, it could be applied to CT scans, any kind of scans that is being done, and it would be a big revolution when it becomes mainstream in healthcare. In analytics was also used as a tool when we were in the era of COVID, even before that, a decade ago when we had other things. It was used at large to warn people where to go, where not to go, right? There were analytics being done on a constant basis to update all of us, right? Descriptive analytics, predictive analytics to figure out what would the spread be like, and so on. So these are things that analytics could do from a health perspective. Retail is a very nice area to talk about because all of us can relate to it, right? And let me tell you how. Personalized marketing is one of the biggest users of analytics, right? We as customers of any retail platform, we get segmented into one of their various categories, right? The moment you go onto the platform. Now, based on our behavior, we are thrown some targeted ads or some targeted marketing is done based on how we interact with the platform, what we are searching for, what we do, and so on and so forth. And we don't really know that it happens, but it's happening behind the scenes, right? And you would have often seen this in many applications. And I'm pretty sure that each and every one of you has been at some point in time a target of these kind of advertisements. You're searching for something on Amazon, and then Facebook gives you the exact same thing 2 hours later. But my question is, did you end up falling to that and then purchasing, and did it alter your purchasing decision? If it did, be honest about it. If it didn't, I mean, it's good. But often these things are done so that you impulsively do end up going to it and end up purchasing at the end of the day, right? Telecom providers also do the same thing. They hit you with targeted ads from time to time to retain you, and any consumer based service does that. You would have noticed that as well. In the retail space, when we talk about from the business perspective, here we were talking about from the consumer perspective, but when we go from the business perspective, demand forecasting is something that is a very big thing, right? Algorithms get me every time, somebody on the chat says. Yeah, it is quite funny, right? So industries often fall into a fix of demand and supply, right? Because they have to understand when to order in things, what consumers are buying, and to maintain a balance such that they don't overbuy or they don't fall short of stock. I mean, either ways, the trends are seasonal, buying patterns change. So analytics actually helps in understanding this. And a very good example is Nestle, where they managed to actually save millions of dollars by reducing their inventory based on analytics, right? And because of reducing around 20% of their safety stock. Safety stock is the extra stock that they keep. They managed to save a lot of money, right? Because they figured the safety stock is too much. It's not going out. So what is the point of keeping it? It becomes dead stock, and then you might have to get rid of it at the end of the day, which is a waste of money. So that's a very core business application, right? I'm sure everybody here is a fan of sports, right? One or the other. Now, sports is seeing a very big overhaul in terms of using analytics, in terms of using technology. Formula One was obviously one of the key sports in enabling that, wherein telemetry data from vehicles often was transferred in real time to their stations, and then decisions were made based on what the data was telling them. So they adjusted and altered things on the fly. Again, how does that happen? It's using power of the power of data, right? Soccer is again a very big sport where today you see a lot of analytics taking over, right from analytics able to judge whether it's an offside or not, determining whether if there was actually a goal or not, to analyzing strengths and weaknesses of players, player positioning, so on and so forth. So you will notice a lot of these things being introduced into areas that you would not expect, or a decade ago did not even exist. So technology is moving very fast, and hence the use of data and the power of data is also moving very fast. But in order to do any of this, we need to have the tools and the knowledge to do it, right? So knowledge of two things. Number one, of the tool itself. What can I use to enable such sort of analytics in my organization? And the knowledge of the business domain, because you need to know how it can be applicable. So if you're from supply chain, you need to know where in supply chain can I apply it? Is it going to be on the supply side, on the transportation side, on the sourcing side? Where am I going to apply it? Where do you think it's going to solve most of the issue? So in the market, there are numerous tools that can be used, right? The list is too exhaustive. It's too big. And I can't fit it into one slide. But what I can do is I can just show you a glimpse of what people are using out there in the industry today more popularly. Some of these tools you would recognize off the bat, right? Microsoft Excel, very, very famous. Now, the question you'll ask is, really, are people using Excel for analytics? I mean, you'll be surprised, because almost 1 billion people use Excel. And out of those people, only a small percentage of people know how to use it in an advanced level. But nonetheless, it's a very powerful tool to do analytics. Programming, which is kind of the lifeline in organizations today, is again a very big tool that can be used owing to its numerous libraries and the open source community as well. A lot of things can be done there. You have business intelligence tools. Now, these tools have been specifically made in order to allow you to reduce the amount of time that it takes to get from data to decision making. So more popularly, tools like Tableau, tools like Click, tools like Power BI. These are tools that many industries today are using in order to get to that decision making capability very fast. Now, obviously, to support those, you have other tools like SQL, Access databases, which are used in the flow of data, right? In order to give data a better shape, to enable better analysis. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to see a small demo on one of these tools, right? More particularly Power BI. Why Power BI? Because personally, I like the tool. It's very simple to use. Secondly, also because people who are starting off, in the data analytics journey, or want to utilize it for their startup business or for their department in their business, it's very simple to pick up and use as compared to maybe numerous other tools. Thirdly, it also has, it's quite powerful in what it can give you, and doesn't require a very, very big learning curve as well. Obviously, that being said, there are numerous things that do beyond that, right? Now, what are we going to see as part of this live demo? I'm going to open up Power BI. We are going to pretend to be a financial organization. And in this financial organization, we are going to pretend that we are the loans department, right? Why loans department? Because every one of us is familiar with loans, right? Just like we are familiar with sales, we also know loans, because we take loans, we give loans, maybe, I don't know, but we're very familiar with it. Now, typically in a loans department, what happens is people come and borrow money, and they borrow money for a particular reason, right? They come from a particular maybe state or a country or a region, and they need it for a particular purpose. It could be for your house, for your business, for your car, to support your family, for medical reasons. There could be numerous reasons. Now, obviously, the financial institution sees a varying amount of people coming in and day out. And what we want to do as that financial institution is we want to use the data that is being captured on a day-to-day business about these people, about the transactions that they're doing, and try to get some understanding of these people, right? What are people taking it for? Can we introduce offers and loans if people are taking it more for their houses? So these are things that we can potentially see. I'm not saying we will see all of them, but these are things we could potentially see, right? And I want you to take this journey with me, right? Because we want to make it interactive. I want you to also tell me things that we can do, and let's try to do them from there, right? So very quickly, what I have on my screen, as you all can see, is I have the interface of the tool. It doesn't matter whether you have seen it before or not. We are not learning about the tool. We are just seeing how data and business decision making come together with the help of a tool, right? So I've put some random title at the top saying this is an Exaltius Finance Loan Analytics report. And what I've done is I've preloaded some data, as you can see on the right-hand side here, into my tool as well, right? And what does the data consist of? It consists of some customer information, where the customer is from. And for simplicity, we have limited the geographical region to that of the US, right? Because it's one place from where a lot of data can be obtained, and we can also relate to it, more familiar with those places. We also have information on why people were taking loans, how much they took, whether they signed up for term payments, 5 years, 3 years. So we have all of this information, right? Now let's start by putting together a few of them and see how easy it is to, kind of understand the numbers. What is the most simplest or the basic thing that one would like to see? As let's say a manager, I want to see over the period of time I've collected data, what is the total amount of loan that has been disbursed by the bank, right? Because by the financial institution. Why? Because I just want to get a high level sensing of how much are we giving out, how much do we need to anticipate. So very simply, what I can do is I have a column that has that information, for different customers, which is a column called the loan amount. I just drag it onto my white canvas here. Let's call it a canvas for simplicity. And I transform this to visual that makes more sense, probably, right? Let's see if we can do that. Right, this is a visual we call the card visual, because it's like a card that has a big number on it. Now, what I want to do is I want to make sure that the data I'm looking at is actually correct, right? And it's in the units that make sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead and change the denomination of this number. So it says 1 billion. Probably not really true. I'm going to probably say I want to see it in millions, and maybe up to a few decimal places as well, because why not, right? And that gives us a very quick understanding that, okay, now over the time we have collected data, we have given out about $1.437 million of loan, right? So quite simple. Now obviously you can beautify this, you can do a lot of other things. We're not going to get into too much of that. Because we're just going to get very high level understanding, but a lot of things can be done there. All right. Now you would maybe choose to give this a title as well, which could help. It says, let's say, for example, right, like something like total loan amount, right? Easy for the end user to understand. And what we'll do is we'll just take this, and for now we'll just keep it here. All right, somewhere around here. Now, the other thing that I probably want to do is I probably want to see on a day-to-day basis what's happening. So I have a high-level view already. I know, okay, this is the total amount going out. But what about on a day-to-day level? Well, I have information daily, as I mentioned earlier, right? Because we have customers coming in daily. So I have a column called day, which basically signifies the date a customer walks in and takes a loan. I just drag that to the canvas, all right? And obviously, along with the day, I need to know how much was distributed on that day. So I'm going to take the same loan amount variable, and I'm going to put it here. And we'll probably make it a little more visual, maybe in the form of a line chart. And it's that easy, right? So very simply, I have something that tells me that this is the trend of how people have been taking loans, right? So let's assume I have the first 10 days of data here. You'll see that there are certain days when there's a high number, there are certain days when there's a low number. So I could probably find a common trend that could help me take better decisions for my business. That every Wednesday, there would be more people coming into the financial institution to take loans, or the amount of loan I have to give out is higher. Now, if somebody wants to make a quantitative assessment of how the movement in the trend is, one could obviously look at it and say, okay, this is what's happening with the data. And there is a dip here by X%, there's a rise here by X%. But what we could also do is, because tools are powerful today, and I want to use this data to do better decision making, I can use something called the smart narrative, right? Which is one of the tools that is in Power BI, right? Now, a smart narrative, as the name suggests, is going to look at the chart, all right? And is going to give you some insight that it can derive quantitatively from the chart, right? So if you look at this, I'm just going to try to reduce the size a little bit. It's a little too big, all right? So if you look at this, what you see is that it's just by looking at the chart, it has told you, or it has given you some information that the loan amount trended down, resulting in a 0.22 decrease between Sunday and Tuesday, right? Similarly, it told you that it started trending up on Monday and went up so and so amount in 7 days. So this is the information it is able to generate for you. But at the same time, this enables any user of this particular report to kind of get or create more powerful information, right? Because at the end of the day, the idea is not that you have to rely completely on the human. You could obviously take help from the computer, from the machine, to give you more information that could help the human make the decision. So why not use it, right? Now, this is something you can do for any chart or any visual that has a particular insight, or you can derive something from. Alternately, there are numerous other things you can do. You could look at a particular point in time, and you could ask the tool to explain the data to you as to why there was an increase, right? How does this help? Well, if you know why there's an increase, you can take a business decision based on that, right? You can take a business decision to say that, hey, because it increased because the number of people that were in a particular age bracket were more, or that came in from a particular area were more, right? So let's probably wait for this to come up in a while. We'll get back to it. Looks like it's trying to rank them up. But while it's doing that, in the meantime, if we look at the data, and I want to ask, the audience this, if you were, let's say, the financial manager of this organization, what would you think could be useful for you? Let me hear from all of you, on Zoom or on the live stream. What do you think would be a useful insight for you that could be derived from information like this? Let's just hear for, understanding what your thought process is like. So if you had a business that was in the financial institution, what would you derive? I'll probably give 30 seconds for people to think about it and put it up on the chat. People on the live stream, you can put it up on the live stream chat. I can see all of your inputs as well. Anybody want to give it a thought? Just give it a try. It doesn't matter, because see, you're here to influence, the business we are collectively, hypothetically creating to take some decisions, right? Okay, what age demographic makes the most loans, and the pattern of which they make payments? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. So yes, definitely, demography plays a very big role, right? What age bracket are people taking loans in? So let's, maybe what we'll do is let's try to look at that, at something like that, right? So if you look at the data that I have, in the data, I have something called length of employment, a parameter of demographic that helps us understand how long a person's been working for. I have their annual income, I have the terms, and so on and so forth, right? So what we'll try to do is, let's try to take something from the demography section and try to make something from there. Okay, maybe let's take employment length, for example, right? Now, employment length, age, I mean, it could be anything along those lines, right? So I have various employment lengths that, I have in my data, of course, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what kind of loan amounts were taken by people with different employment lengths, right? Let me try to bring that up here as well. And, let's say that we want to put this in a simple column chart, probably. Right. Let that come up. Okay, so, I have some information here, and very simply, what I can see from that information is people who have worked for more than 10 years, right? They are the biggest consumers of loans here with this financial institution. Now, surprisingly, you will also notice that the next contender or the next set of contenders are people who have worked only for 1 to 3 years. So if you think about it, from a lifestyle perspective, or you think about it from your perspective, typically when I start working, maybe I want to buy a house, right? Maybe I want to buy a car. And because I have the capability to pay back a loan, I will probably take one and give it back. Now, after 10 years, maybe, that's your milestone, and then you want to make some other purchasing decisions, which are much bigger. So that's how, you get a pattern, you get an understanding of, what's happening, right? Obviously, I'm not spending effort here to beautify and do all these things, but just to kind of tell you that these are the kind of decisions that can be taken. Now, another important, contributing factor is maybe the location. Why? Because tomorrow, maybe I want to run a marketing campaign in California that take a loan at a lower interest rate for the next 2 weeks. Just hypothetically speaking, right? So looking at it geographically is something that we can also do. And for that purpose, we can create various charts like a map, right? So let me try to find some space here. Okay, let's try to put it here. We're not organizing it a lot, but let's keep it here for now. Now, I do have a location field, which is in the form of states. So immediately what happens is when I put in, states of the US here, it automatically picks it up and says that, okay, these look like states in the US by the abbreviations. Let me try to plot it on a map. Right? You could do this with any country in the world, and it'll work for you. And what we could do is we can say that I want to look at each and every location based on the amount of loans that have been taken. So the bigger the size of the bubble, the more the loans have been taken from there. Okay, let me get this into something called focus mode so we can look at this a little more easily, right? So here you'll notice that states like, or places like California, you have New York, you have Texas. All of these are kind of the bigger places, or the places from where loans are taken more. Now, maybe you'd want to break this further down, right? You may want to say, okay, loans are fine, but I want to launch a marketing campaign with respect to house loans, right? What can I do? Well, you know where people are staying, you know their home ownership status. Let's try to drag that in, right? And what happens when you drag that in? When you drag that in, it immediately divides every chunk based on its home ownership, right? It's quite neat, right? Because now it can give you one more level deeper insight into what this particular visual is telling you. So now if we focus on, let's say the state of California, for example, just going to try to zoom in a little bit here. You can see that you have a legend on the top. So it tells you houses are either owned or mortgaged or rented. So in California, you notice that 50% or more of the house are rented, right? Most of them are mortgaged and a very few percentage is owned. Similarly, when you go to other states, you'll see a different ratio. For example, Texas, there's a lot of ownership there, a lot of mortgage or ownership there as compared to rentals. Now, depending on this split up, you could launch different campaigns in different places. You could start maybe a financial, a branch of your financial institution somewhere else. Now, all of these decisions are taken based on the information that we have, right? If we don't have this information, it becomes very difficult for us to obviously take decisions, because we would just probably say, I think this can be done. Maybe this is a possibility, but then we don't have any backing. We don't know whether it's the right decision or not, right? So this is a small example of what a powerful tool can do to bring through the power of data, right? So let me go back to my presentation now. We could do this all day long. It's super fun, and I love it a lot as well. But my main intention, as I mentioned, was to give you a feel of what data can do for you, right? Now, technology is moving very fast. You all know that. Data is also increasing every day. We know that as well. Where are we headed, right? Now, we are headed into a world where decisions are going to be taken based on data by machines. And humans are going to use that to understand what's going on in and around them, to help them in their business, or to help them with their application, right? This is one example, computer vision. You've seen people like Tesla, other EVs, Mercedes, maybe many others, who have used this technology in order to take decisions based on data in and around them. We have all heard about ChatGPT and BERT, right? Natural language processing engines that help you do a lot of things. Now, I mean, is this just happening by magic, or is there analytics involved? What is involved? I mean, there is some sort of science behind it, right? And a part of that comes into doing prediction or generating new information. But all that, again, could not be possible without information and data that we have. We are seeing tools like Midjourney, for example, which is able to generate amazing content for us. And people around the world are using it. It's predicting what we would potentially want based on information that we feed it. Now, all this, is where we are going. It doesn't mean that, this is the mainstream in every industry today. Now, different industries use things in a different way, right? Banks would have transactional data. Manufacturing firms would have sensor-based IoT data coming in. Supply chain would have other form of data. Warehouses would have other form of data. So it all depends on, what kind of data does an organization have, and how then, one could use that data, right? So if we summarize very quickly before we go into our Q&A, what is the takeaway from, what we have seen today? Our takeaway is quite simple, right? That data is something that is all around us today. It's being generated very, very fast. As we said, 320 million terabytes of data is a lot. Now, we have to take a decision as to how we can use this in our business, right? How we can involve data to do decision making. And I've showed you a glimpse of the power. I don't have all the power in my hands, but in an organization, a lot of power exists, right? You could have systems, you have tools, you have information, and that is what should influence decisions. So we'll open the floor now for Q&A. Q&A is the best part. I would love to take questions from all of you before we, kind of close off. And I would be very happy to answer any sort of questions, right? So thank you for listening to me. And please pull in with your questions, either on the live stream or on the Zoom chat. I'd be very happy to take some and help you tread on the journey of data and business. So for people on the Zoom chat, please type your questions on the chat box. People who are on the live stream, please use the respective live stream chats. All right. Let's see a few questions coming in. I'll give you some time to type out your questions. Okay, what tool can you suggest to do simple analytics? So Dennis, asking a very, very nice question there. One of the things I mentioned earlier was, there are numerous tools that exist. Some of them are simpler to use. Some of them are very industry specific. The most fundamental tool that one uses is Excel, at least today. Excel can definitely help you with some of the basic analytics that you would want to do, provided you have limited amount of data and you're able to work with that on Excel. If you go one step higher, then what I showed you is the next best thing that you can use, right? So if you don't have knowledge of programming, if you don't want to have the knowledge of programming, then the next best thing to do is something which doesn't require that knowledge, right? So tools like Power BI, Tableau, all this, helps you synthesize your data more effectively in an analytical form. So make sure that one of these tools is something that you pick up, and it'll definitely help you out. Okay, I have a question here from Gihan. Says, I have a degree in IT. How can I jump into a career with data analytics, right? I mean, it's a very good question. So, I've spoken to numerous people who are, in the IT field. Obviously, one of the things that they're very good at is, dealing with computer languages. Could be programming. It could be other backend tools. What helps you out is your computational knowledge, computational thinking knowledge, right? You would have logical knowledge, logical ability. Now, data science, or data analytics, if you look at it from the foundational level, it starts from the very basic things like algorithms, right? Which all of you would know. Algorithms is kind of the base. And if you build up from there and you start learning tools like tools that support the data workflow, like Excel, SQL, visualization tools. If you love programming, then Python for sure. That is something that you can pick up. And all of these tools are tools that will help you in data analytics. It could be either one of them, it could be all of them. It depends what level you want to go to. So it's all about spending time to learn and practicing. I think that's where the secret sauce is. Tools are abundant, and it's not very difficult to learn them. All right. What is the difference between statistics and data analytics? Are they the same in any way? So Nash Anthony is asking this question. See, statistics is something that gives you certain metrics, certain information from, or based on some mathematics. It could be basic descriptive stats. It could be any other form of stats. Now, analytics, comes in various forms, right? So analytics could be, in one hand, it could be statistical, based on metrics like your standard deviation, your mean, median, mode, central tendencies, and so on and so forth, right? You could have distributions, based on which you would arrive at something. On the other hand, you have other visuals which can, give you a distribution of some sort on which you can employ statistical methods. Like, you have a bar chart, for example, right? Now, a bar chart is nothing but, a mathematically derived chart, but it's put in a pictorial form for you at the end of the day. Now, you could employ statistical methods on them. You could do your standard deviations. You could put your central tendencies on it to get more information. So, I mean, it's all one, and it's all under the same umbrella. It's just that statistics, is kind of, what led to analytics becoming in this form today, right? So it is under the same umbrella, more or less. And hopefully that answers your question to some extent. All right, any more questions? Okay, SQL. See, SQL definitely something that can be organized. It's a very important tool for data engineers, data scientists at large, because it helps you with all your data engineering tasks, data transformation, data engineering, and so on. So definitely something that we as an organization also teach, and also could be part of our future sessions as well. We'll take that into consideration. Thank you for your question. Any more questions? We have time for a few more questions to come in. Do we have any more questions that are on the chat? All right. We probably hang on for another couple minutes before we close. So we'll take another one or two questions if they come in. So please feel free. Again, this is an open forum. We can have questions of any sort that come in. We'll be very happy to answer those questions. Okay, this question is very difficult to, it's very difficult to justify in an answer. What is the average salary of a data analyst? Now, it really depends from region to region, and also industry to industry. The only thing I can tell you though is that every industry has a requirement of data analysts, and we have seen the average salary growing over a period of time, right? Primarily because analysts need to be trained in certain tools, they need to know technology, and only then can they be employed to do the tasks that are required by the business. So the average salaries are increasing. I mean, there are numerous reasons for that, but with that, the demand is also increasing in the industry. So make sure that if you are aspiring to be one, then now is the time. So don't wait for too long. There are numerous places, there are numerous salary survey guides. Maybe I can share them in an email later, but there are numerous salary survey guides that can actually help give you that average figure. Okay. Any last questions before we call it a day or a night for some people? Okay. I don't see any more questions coming in on Zoom. Let me make sure the live stream also doesn't have anything. Okay. Once again, thank you all very much for taking a precious time out of your daily schedule and joining me in this masterclass. Hopefully, it's been useful for you. It has given you an insight as to why data analysis is powerful and how it can actually help bring data to life in a business. Thank you so much for joining, and make sure you all have a very good evening. And if you are looking to embark on the journey of data analytics, don't wait for too long. All right. Thank you, and have a good day ahead.